disruptive. Now, please help me enthusiastically welcome tonight's speaker, John.
Sup? John, alcoholic addict. All right. Anybody ever been to treatment? Man, I met the love of my life in treatment 5 times. Married a couple of them. Anyways, anybody else fall in love in treatment? Yeah, you some sick people, man. Yep. It gets worse. Anyways, I sobered up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I lived there the first 28 years of my life, and then I lived in Phoenix. And let's see, I was an alcoholic by the time I was 13. I remember my sister worked at this grocery store, and I would go there and play Pac-Man. That's how old I am. Play Pac-Man and Asteroids. And she worked there, so I'd say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'd go in the back and I'd grab 2 12-packs of Old Style out of the cooler and throw it out the back door. And I drank them every night of my life, you know, for I don't know how many years, like from about maybe 11 or 12 all the way up. And so in the mornings in Wisconsin, we're standing around the bus stop, everybody's shivering, waiting to get on that bus, and you know, we're shaking, and then I get on the bus, everybody else stops shaking but me, because I had the shakes in the morning. And I was embarrassed. I remember sitting on my hands all the way to school, and I used to bring alcohol to school, and then that wasn't really good. And so then I learned if I got up maybe 10 minutes earlier and smoked a joint, then I wouldn't shake in school. And anyways, we sold a lot of weed back then, and 3 for $5, you know. And then I'd smoke one with everyone. You know, hey, smoke one with me, you know. I don't think I made any money. Anyways, and so by high school, I got 3 felony counts of delivery of cocaine, and I went to prison. And that sucked, you know. And you'd think that I would quit, you know, when I got out, but I had to try it again. And this is actually my 3rd attempt at sobriety. And I got sober March 28th, 1988. Some of you weren't even born then. And anyhow, so when I got out, they sent me to this place called Meridian House. And Meridian House is a therapeutic community. And I had a choice. I could go do, I think I had 8 years left. I could have went and did my 8 years, or I went there. And anyways, so this lady come to the jail when I was getting out and interviewed me. And her name was Linda. And she had 17 years sober at the time. And she said, all right, why do you want to come in this place? You know, I'm like, well, I can go do my time, but I'm going to come back out and I'm still going to be a junkie, you know. I don't want to be a junkie and a drunk anymore. And so she's like, all right, okay. And then she said, well, if we do let you in, do you have any special requests, you know? And I said, well, you know, I'm a white guy, so like, you know, like they're classifying me for prison. You know, I'm like, well, put me in with the white guys, right? I don't really like black guys, you know. And and she's writing shit down, you know, with a straight face. And I said, don't put me with any fags either, you know. I don't like that shit, and she's writing shit down, and I don't want to work in no kitchens either, because like I worked in restaurants, man. I'm done with that shit, right? And she said, okay. And so when I got in there, they bunked me with a gay black guy, and he was my boss in the kitchen. Man. And anyhow, luckily, when I went in there, I had all kinds of ideas and beliefs, when I got here. And I was 100% on that shit. I was willing to fight to the death on some of that stuff. And luckily, I stuck around long enough, kept an open mind that all that shit's changed to something completely different that actually works, They told me to keep an open mind, keep coming back, especially in spiritual matters, keep an open mind. And if I wouldn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have made it. And then they also told me, I got with these sober bikers, and they were having fun in recovery, but they took recovery serious first. And they told me, he said, whoever comes through that door is your brother and your sister, And so at that time, all these other classifications that I talked about went out the window, because then everyone was my brother and sister, see? And I waited a long time to get a sponsor. I had guys that would come up to me and, hey, John, what are you doing? Usually it was at the Alano Club, and they'd come up to me, hey, John, you can't act like that, and they'd confront me, and then when I did get a sponsor, like, they'd call a meeting with him and me and say, we got to meet in the back, there's a problem. And anyway, so my sponsor would be like my lawyer, and we'd go in the back room, and these old guys, they're like, hey, John, your two girlfriends were fighting downstairs, and so we want to kick you out of here, and I'm like, I wasn't even here, So I showed them I stayed gone 60 days, Yeah, so anyways, but that's what they did back then, and that's what I did. I acted out, I had a real hard time. I was rebelling against this stuff. I don't know, like, I just had to rebel. It didn't make sense, The shit was good for me. Why, I rebelled against it. It's just a natural reaction. So I'm not listening to that guy, I ain't doing what he says. So what I did is what you're supposed to do is, get a girlfriend right away out of treatment, and have babies, and then get married, I'm pretty sure my two sons were about 6 months apart. Something like that. They were about 6 months apart, yeah. And but I didn't have a picture of me on the refrigerator at the women's halfway houses, though. I didn't have that. I wasn't that bad. Yep. But anyways, I got in a bunch of trouble there. And then one time I was starting my motorcycle after the meeting, and it was a panhead, so you had to kick it, and it took a while to warm up, and you couldn't just get on it right off. And so I started up, and I smoked back then, so light a cigarette, and this girl comes up, hey, I need a ride over here, will you give me a ride? And I'm like, no, I can't. And there was this lady, Cindy, that sponsored like all the girls, right? Cindy sponsored all the girls, and she would warn them, watch out for that guy, John, And so So I said, isn't Cindy sponsoring you? She goes, yeah, but there's got to be something about it, man. I'm going to check it out, And so I'm like, yeah, Cindy, And, but anyways, so at the time, man, I didn't like that. I didn't like that reputation. I didn't like it. And so I told her no. Like, no, I can't have you get on my bike, man. It's bad. It's bad for me. It's bad for you. It's bad. Bad, right? And so I get on my bike and I rode off, right? Did the right thing. I'm so proud of myself. I'm driving down the road. I'm like, yeah, you did the right thing. I was so proud of myself. I went back and picked her up. Anyways, that's how my sobriety went in the early days. So if I'm pointing at you guys, it's because I know. Yeah, don't try to bullshit me. I just want to be your friend. Shut up. In AA, we don't date, we take hostages. And the second date involves a moving truck. Anyways, we're laughing about all this stuff, man, but it's serious, I got suicidal, like my little higher power left me, and then I had nothing. And I remember knocking on my sponsor's door at 2 a.m. because if I'm up after midnight, bad things happen. So I'm up after midnight, I'm in my head, and oh, it's never going to be the same. I'll die without her, those irrational things we say to ourselves, like a country song, And anyways, I went and knocked on his door, and he answered the door, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And I started telling him the story on the porch, and he said, "Come on in here." And makes a pot of coffee and starts frying up like some bologna or some shit. It was pretty good, actually. Because he always said, man, first thing he asked me, "Did you eat today?" And it's like, oh, I don't know. And his name was Lester. And Lester I think he had about 17, 18 years too at that time. And so he'd have me read the big book at his kitchen table. And everything that jumped out at me in that book was usually because I was like suicidal or some shit, and reading a book in his kitchen. And so, and he would put little funny things in there, He'd say, because he'd have me start on page 69. I don't know why. But we always started right there. And he'd say, and I'd start reading while he's frying shit. I can see him now, cigarette hanging out of his mouth and his bathrobe and frying shit. And I'd start reading and he'd say, wait, what was that? He'd put my name in there. He'd say, and John fucking Huber cried out for sex and more sex, bewailing the institution of marriage, and all this stuff. And he'd make me laugh, because that's what got my attention, And anyways, he got me from here to here in recovery, Like he was there. If I knocked on the door, he let me in, I think he even bought me a car one time. I had to pay for it, but I needed a car and he got it for me, It was my roofing repair car. Had gas in the back and ladder on the roof. And, yep. And then I did the next thing that we know how to do, because we know how to work and we know how to make money, right? 3 for 5, right? So I started a roofing company, and with a van. I had a van, and and I made a bunch of money in early recovery, and that's the worst thing you can do, is give an addict alcoholic a whole bunch of money. And then, of course, my ego, I built this, I made this. Look at what I built. Come into meetings, I was John's Construction, you know. It was on my back, embroidered, you know. Hi, I'm John's Construction. My life's not unmanageable anymore. I got money now. You know, right? Lives become unmanageable. My friend Tom talks about the second part, you know, that it should say our emotions were unmanageable. I was an emotional wreck, you know, and I had no control over them at all, you know. And I was mostly angry, you know. I don't know, anybody angry? Yeah. Anyways, anger is like the last emotion, really. It's covering like a whole bunch of other ones, you know. When you get down a few levels, there's other shit: fear, insecurity, I don't know, codependency. Anybody got codependency? Yeah, nice. Yeah, that shit kills you. Because how, you know, what we do is we seek out that next person, you know, the next higher power, and it doesn't work as a higher power, just to let you know. So anyway, so I made this. You know, I had 3 wishes when I got here, was to have a girlfriend with fake boobs, and a Harley Davidson, and $1 million, you know, and I got that stuff, you know, and I got it real quick, and like with very little effort, and because we know how to work and we know how to make money, right? That's the only thing I knew how to do when I got here. I can work, I can make money. I had to make money to buy my dope, because I couldn't sell dope because I was my best customer, you know, and I had to do dope so I could drink all night, you know, a little bit of cocaine, a little bit of LSD, a whole bunch of wild turkey, and vomiting, you know. I tried to be one or the other, you know. I was like, maybe I can just smoke weed, you know, right? Be California sober, you know. That's what we call it, right? I ain't drank alcohol in 5 years, but I sure smoke weed every day. Like, that's California sober. Anyways, I tried to just do that. I tried to just do cocaine, just drink beer, you know, all that, like it says in the book. We switched from beer to wine, all that stuff. And I'm the jaywalker, right? Everybody know the jaywalker story, you know? When I get to Montezuma and Gurley, it's jaywalking there, right? Every time I go to that intersection, I think of the jaywalker, you know, because there's people jaywalking, but there's lines for them to walk in. And but anyways, I'm that guy, you know. Nothing was going to scare me into sobriety. We ain't scared of nothing. These little consequences, we ain't scared of nothing, you know. DUI, we ain't scared of that. Get our license back in a year, you know. Get the little blower thing. I seen this girl in the parking lot and I was laughing at her, you know. I go, you got a DUI. She started telling me a story. It goes like this. Whoa. Every lie, excuse in Prescott starts out with this sound. Whoa. Listen for it now. When you leave here and you go home, listen for that. You know. Why aren't the dishes done? Whoa. My favorite. Where's Michael? Is he here? No, he was here. Anyways. Yeah, so made that money and got married, and had a bunch of kids, anyways, and then I worked like 80 hours a week, so she left me. And I remember getting divorce papers while I was at work, right? If I had have known, I would have brought more clothes when I went to work that day. But I said, also, you can't go home. Whoa, great, awesome, And so I was living in my warehouse and didn't have no running water, but had a cool office, and I was living in there, and I had this 45, and I remember pointing it to my head and going, "Fuck this," I was about 5 years sober, and I hadn't worked not one step, maybe 13, maybe practiced a little bit of the book so I'd have something to say, and so I was doing that, and taking it too far, like putting pressure on the trigger and shit, checking the pull on it, and then something told me, man, you better go to a meeting, So I go to a meeting with Alcoholics Anonymous downtown Kenosha, and it's a big room, maybe a little bigger than this, but it had a bunch of tables, and I could see this guy like across the room, and I could see him from the side, and he started telling the story about his wife was leaving him. He took a bottle and a shotgun, and he drove up to like where everybody parks, and was drinking and holding onto his shotgun, and somebody reported him. So when the cop came to confront him, he locked his door, and he said he drank the bottle down in front of him and put the gun to his face, pulled the trigger, and the blast broke the window open, and the cop reached in and like grabbed the vein that was squirting out of the truck, and saved the guy's life, and so me, I just want to I want to go talk to this guy after the meeting. And so I go up to him, and when I get to him, like this half of his face was gone, the half I couldn't see, and it was pretty crazy looking. And I told him where I was. I said, man, I'm half hour ago I was doing the same thing. Had the gun to my head. He goes, you got to talk to somebody. You got to talk to somebody about it. You can't just do that and not talk to anybody. And so I was like, okay, all right. And all I wanted to know was if him and his wife got back together, right? I'm like, because that's what I'm going through, right? I want to hear where where this connects to me. And so I asked him, and he says, God's got a sense of humor. She ended up with the cop that saved my life, And I was like, wow. He does have a sense of humor, And anyway, so I went that night, and I went to this clubhouse, right, because these bikers helped me get sober. And then I went there, and this guy, his name was Torch. And I asked him to be my sponsor, and I was serious, right? I'm like, I'm hurting, I'm serious, right? I'm like, hey man, will you be my sponsor? He goes, I don't know, man, you're pretty fucked up. Because I usually get them when they're further along in recovery, And of course he was joking, but like, man, right? We're serious when we come in, right? Right, Levi? We're fucking serious, man. Nothing's funny. And anyways, so I made an appointment to do my 5th step, and then I went home and did my 4th step in that order. And so then I moved into the clubhouse because I was living in my office and no running water, And so I moved into the clubhouse, and so we did my 5th step in my room in there, and that was my first 5th step. And I'm pretty sure I dropped everything from like when I was a fetus all the way up to like, 23 years old or something like that. And he said, you're probably always going to be full of shit most of your life. He said, just try not to lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. And from there, I was able to make a start on it. Because I'd hear people talking about honesty, right? Honesty, integrity, and all that shit that I had no use for. And I'd think, that's too big of a jump for me to be a scandalous liar, cheating, a thief, drug dealer, pimp, to be a sober, honest guy, that was too big of a jump. And so when he said, just be honest with yourself, stop lying to yourself. And I had to look at that because, I didn't, of course, if I'm lying to myself, I don't know I'm lying to myself, It's called being delusional. It's like being stupid. It doesn't hurt you, it hurts everybody around you, And until somebody says, hey, you're stupid. Like, oh, okay, cool, No, I didn't take none of that, But people used to pull me aside and say, John, what are you doing? Because I'd be running through, John's construction, right? Like, I got to go, man. I got to do a bid. I got to collect a check, I got to go buy something, And they say, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And then I would tell them all the drama in my life, right? And they'd sit there laughing. It's like, what are you laughing about? I says, I'm glad that ain't me anymore, And anyways, so I started looking at my motives in honesty. I had to look at motives. I had to look at integrity, right? In Meridian House, we talked about integrity a lot, and we did this training in there called RBT, which is Rational Behavior Therapy, and it was this book with this little guy named Rational Ralph, right? And all these little situations, and then we would do what's called a rational self-analysis, kind of like a 10th step, And I got used to doing them in my head than filling out the form, And you had to challenge yourself, in these things, and I've been challenging myself ever since. Anyways, we're moving right along. So, man, nobody went out and smoked yet, except maybe that guy. So Meridian House, we had to wear signs, right? We had to yell at ourselves in the mirror. We had to make these paper things called learning experiences, LEs for short. And they had this paper station with cardboard and big paper and scissors and tape, and so you'd have to make your own sign, right? Me and this guy Jack we were outside painting the place, right? And we were throwing karate kicks at each other, just playing around, and we got in trouble, right? So I had to have this sign that said, "I'm not the Karate Kid. I need to respect the rules of Meridian House in order to rebuild my life." And it was a 4x4 sign with a string. And I had to wear that everywhere I went, And if you like went to the bathroom and took it off and left it, you'd get in more trouble. Then the sign would grow, right? And I had and you had to write slips. You had to snitch, right? That's foreign. Right? You couldn't even have a bro in there, because if you told him anything, he'd snitch on you 6 times, because he had a quota, like the Prescott Police Department. At the end of the month, they got a quota, and so like you couldn't walk through the place without breaking one of the rules, and so something happened. My girlfriend of the month brought me some sunglasses at a picnic. And I forgot them. Had them on my head, came in, put them in my locker, and I got all kinds of trouble. Man, you don't have sunglasses privileges, And everybody snitched on me, right? The whole place. And I just like, oh, I forgot, you know. And they didn't believe anything I said ever. I don't know why. And so I had to make these sunglasses, right? 2-foot sunglasses, and I used saran wrap, you know, and everything, and they were kind of cool, you know. Not like Ray-Bans, but you know, they were cool, and you couldn't laugh at anybody's shit either, right? So I come out of there with these glasses, and I turned to my friend Tracy with a shit-eating grin, and he started laughing. And the whole place wrote a slip on him. Now he's wearing a pair of glasses, too. Right? And then, because I laughed so much in there, right? Because it was bizarre, but you weren't allowed to laugh. But I still laughed, you know. And they made me wear a suit and tie and carry a briefcase everywhere I went. You know. I wish I still fit in that suit. Anyways, and then I had to carry bricks in buckets, right? I had a bucket with like 5 or 6, and not like little bricks that they use today. The old ones, I think they were from the roads that they tore up, right? So they were these big, heavy bricks, and they all had my character defects on them, you know? Each one was my character defect, right? And I had to work on this pamphlet, you know, this packet, and I had 2 full buckets of bricks, right? And everywhere I went, and I'm like curling them. I'm like, this is cool, you know. I'm gonna be cut when I get out of here, you know. And then I would work on these character defects, and they'd take a brick out, you know. Now I'm walking like this, you know. And so you felt the weight of it or something. I don't know. I don't know if that helped me at all in anything. But I remember that place made me carry bricks, and you don't want to go in there, you know. It was like the Matrix. You didn't want to go in the Matrix in Phoenix, you know, or Tent City. You didn't want to go in there. They fed you like emu meat and shit. Ostrich meat, yeah. In a Ladmo bag. Anybody old enough to know what a Ladmo bag is? Anyways, where was I? Oh, I'm in treatment, right? So now, when you're in there, a new guy, you got to be aware of him, right? So he can't be anywhere alone for a week, right? So, and if you needed to go to the bathroom, you'd have to say, you know, excuse me, can you be aware of the new resident while I use the restroom? And they're like, okay, all right, he's aware of you, you know. And then all of a sudden, like, I come out, he's gone, they're gone, I don't know where they went, and somehow I'm in trouble, you know. And so now I got to carry around a little 2-foot resident, right? And then I left it in the living room, so now it's a 4-foot resident, you know. And of course I left it again, and now it's full-size resident. And I just had him lay down, and I traced him and shit. And he was a black guy, so I, like, you know, highlighted the lips and the fro and all that shit, and we had fun with it. And but that guy, like, he went into the bathroom and crawled out the window, climbed out the fire escape. He could have just went out the front door, you know. Anybody leave treatment like that when you could have just went out the front door, but you climbed down a fucking, you tied your sheets together and shit. There was one guy that fell. Man. He was still alive. Anyways, that's here in Prescott. Oh, yeah. But anyways, and then cigarettes, right? You were allowed 15 cigarettes. You know, you guys that like vape and all that shit. You know, the only bad thing about vape is having to tell your parents you're gay. You know, and anyway, so you're allowed 15 cigarettes, right? And you had to go put a mark every time you smoked one. Like, you know, if there was 7 marks on there, you better have 8 cigarettes on you, right? And I just got so tired of doing that, I quit smoking. Because I had to carry around, like, I had to make 3 cigarettes, right? They had to be round and shit, and they were 2 foot, and I had to carry 3 cigarettes. Next thing you know, it's a pack, right? I'm carrying a pack of these things with me, you know, and then it was a carton, you know, so I got this big box, you know, and anyway, so I got tired of that and I just quit smoking in there, you know. It's hard to do. I don't recommend you quit smoking until you're about 2 years sober, maybe. It's my recommendation. Mike says 3, but he's a hard ass. I get to work with a bunch of new guys, you know, and some that stayed around. I got a couple sponsees in their 20 years, you know, a couple in 3, 4 just coming in, you know. I get to be part of their recovery, and I get to share my experience, you know. I had a sponsor, Phoenix. He got killed a couple years ago. He got murdered for his money, and some kids that he was helping killed him. And anyways, when he was my sponsor for 18 years. We raised our kids together. He was a single dad, I was a single dad, and we raised our kids together, and we spent the holidays together. And my sobriety family was better than my real family. My real family sucked. And anyways, so he used to tell me, he said, "I'm pretty sick, man. You don't want my opinion," you know. And I was, okay. So what he did is he promised that he would go to his higher power, and I knew he had one, and that he would see what he said and then come back with what his higher power said, not what he would say, right? So that's how we did it. You know, when I talked to him, he would go to his higher power and come back and have something to say, you know. And that's how I do it, you know. Because John's way is, you know, what, you got a resentment? Let's go kick that fucker's ass. You know? Yeah. You know? We'll dig a hole in Ash Fork. You know? You know? That's what I would say, you know. But instead, I go to my higher power because this is all still new to me, right? And I have to rely on a power greater than myself because my brain is broken, see? And if you were to look back at all the crazy behavior in the beginning and all the shit that I did the hard way, you know, you'd say, man, your brain's broken, you know. And so when I started doing my 4th and 5th steps, I started doing them every year after my first one. And since my sobriety date's March 28th, I do a 4-step in the spring because somebody would ask me to speak around my birthday, you know. After you get like 5, 6 years sober, you're an old timer, you know. And the newcomers are like, man, I can't imagine 6, 7 years. Holy cow, you know. And anyways, I didn't think I was going to live this long, you know, to be 33 years sober. But when I got to be like 20 years sober, people started saying, dude, you're 20 years sober and you act like that? You know? My buddy Timmy, because I got in a fist fight down at this hippie place, man. What was it called?
Coffee shop?
Yeah. Willow House down in Phoenix, right? Willow House. A lot of weirdos hung out there, man. And I don't know, I got into it with some guy, and my buddy's like, man, I can't believe you did that. It's like, man, wait till you get 20 years. You tell me how you'd have done it, you know. Anyways, just because we're sober don't mean we can't kick someone's ass. You know what I mean? But we do it in a spiritual way. You know? Work this debt. Or stop doing the shit I did. Anyways, yeah, sobriety's cool. Best life I ever had. You know, like I said, I don't know what it's like to be this sober. You know, this is the first time I've ever been this far. You know, and like my other buddy says, man, 33 years between drinks, you might as well give up drinking altogether. You know? Paul says that on Sunday mornings. You should come Sunday morning if you're a man. It's a men's meeting. That's where we work the first 12 steps. At the men's meeting. No, that's where my peers are, you know. And I love working with newcomers, but I need to be refreshed and my cup needs to be filled up. And I have to go where there's guys older in recovery than me, you know. But anyhow, whew, man, look at it, it's almost time. I'll close with this. My advice is, if you're new in recovery, go run off with the girl in treatment. Move to Minneapolis to her mother's basement, and just make money. That's all you have to do. You know what I mean? You will suffer and you'll learn all kinds of shit if you make it, if you survive. Anyways, with that, I'll close. Thanks.